They told me interspecies diplomacy was about patience, empathy, and understanding. They forgot to mention alien pheromones, bite marks, and the endless paperwork that comes after someone from Orion 5 decides they like your scent. I'm Jake Tracer, ambassador, bachelor, recovering romantic idiot. 3 months ago, I made a promise, carved it into my soul and my exosuit armor, never fall in love again. Not after the Andoran incident. Not after the 3-day tabloid storm titled Earthling Seduces Tentacle Royalty, again. Not after waking up to find a goodbye note written in mucus and an unpaid ducking fee on my ship. Since then, I've been a changed man. Emotionally celibate. Diplomatically dry. The galaxy's most unenthusiastic bachelor. My assistant bot, Morris 9, says I've entered existential maintenance mode. I call it peace. That lasted until the council meeting on Tuesday. It was the usual circus, 9 species arguing about planetary tariffs and reproductive cloning rights. I was half asleep, chewing a stale protein bar, when the doors opened and the temperature dropped 10 degrees. Every alien froze. Even the reptilians stopped shedding for a second. She walked in, 8 feet tall, covered in short silver fur that shimmered like starlight. Eyes the color of supernovas. Armor made of something that looked suspiciously like the bones of her exes. The Taknai matriarch. The Beastwoman. Her name was Vilara, but the tabloids would later call her the Fanged Feminine. She was the kind of woman who made you forget your vows, your dignity, and your species' upper limit for safe oxygen intake. I leaned toward the Andoran delegate and whispered, "Looks like someone left the safari open." Unfortunately, the translator caught that. It beeped, adjusted for diplomatic politeness, and announced, in 6 languages. Ambassador Tracer greets the glorious Taknai matriarch as the embodiment of primal beauty and symmetrical meat design. Dead silence. Her soldiers growled. The air shimmered. Someone's translator melted. And then, she smiled. It wasn't the kind of smile you see in rom-coms or dating apps. It was slow. Intentional. The kind of smile predators give before deciding whether you're food or fun. I gulped. That can't be good. Morris 9 whispered in my ear, correction, in Taknai culture, a smile indicates total submission to the recipient. She just surrendered to you. Wait, what? She yields. You own her now. My mind went blank. The council chamber erupted, half shouting in outrage, half snapping photos for the Galactic net. The Andoran next to me muttered, "Congratulations, human. You've just ended interstellar feminism." I wanted to crawl into a black hole. But no, the universe wasn't done humiliating me. The council chair, a gelatinous blob who communicated via moist vibrations, declared, "Under Treaty 47B, any act of cultural yielding between sovereign entities constitutes a binding alliance." I stood up. Hold on. I didn't mean for her to yield. I was just being human, said the blob. The word hit harder than expected. Vilara rose from her throne of bone. She towered over me, looking down with a mix of curiosity and hunger. Her translator clicked and purred. "Your smile, it pierced me." I stammered. I wasn't smiling." "You showed teeth. Teeth mean challenge. Challenge means union." I glanced around, hoping for backup. None came. Even the robots looked intrigued. Vilara stepped closer, her shadow swallowing me whole. I could feel the warmth of her breath, like an engine idling too close. "You are small, fragile, and confusing. You speak insults that sound like compliments. You bleed easily but laugh often." Her smile widened. "You will make an excellent mate." My soul disconnected from my body. Somewhere deep in my human brain, I heard my ex's voice whisper, "Told you so." "Listen," I said, hands raised. "I'm flattered, really, but I'm sort of on a self-imposed celibacy tour right now. Emotionally unavailable. Spiritually retired." Her translator buzzed. "He accepts the challenge of mating combat." The council cheered. The blob bellowed. A reporter fainted. Morris 9 whispered, "Shall I schedule the wedding or the war first?" I leaned down and hissed, "Neither. Get me out of here." But before I could bolt, Vilara reached out a hand, the size of a hovercar hood, and gently lifted my chin. Her claws grazed my jaw. My heart short-circuited. She said, softly, "Your pulse races. Fear or desire?" "Yes." The council gasped like a live studio audience. And that's when I realized. No matter how much I promised myself, no matter how much I swore off love, sex, and alien diplomacy, I was, once again, that human. The idiot who smiles at the wrong time. The diplomat who turns galactic politics into interspecies foreplay. The man who mistakes disaster for destiny. And as the press drones swarmed around us, flashing lights and broadcasting across 50 systems, I heard the headline already forming in my head. Human ambassador accidentally marries space Amazon through unintended smile. Somewhere deep inside, a voice said, "You did it again, Tracer." And yet, even as my career dissolved faster than a sugar cube in acid rain, I couldn't help it. I smiled back. Vilara's eyes widened, and she growled, low and guttural, "A double surrender? You are bold, little human." The council's recorders exploded from the noise. And that was the exact moment I knew. History books wouldn't remember me for peace treaties or trade reforms. They'd remember me as the first man in galactic history to start an interspecies war. By flirting. By morning, I was a meme. Smilegate, they called it. Every newsfeed across the spiral arms was looping that exact frame, me, mid-sweat, half-grin, eyes wide as a star collapsing. Underneath, headlines screamed. Earthling seduces apex predator with facial contortion. Beastwoman yields to primitive's dental flash. Someone even made a remix called Grin of the Galaxy. I wanted to crawl under a moon. Instead, I sat in the council cafeteria, sipping something that claimed to be coffee but tasted like regret, while Morris 9 hovered beside me projecting angry emails from my superiors. "Ambassador Tracer," the AI buzzed, "Human command demands you clarify whether the yielding was strategic or romantic." "It was accidental." I groaned. "It was an accidental smile. That's all." "Statistically improbable," said Morris 9. "Your facial muscles contracted into a curvature associated with flirtation 97% of the time." "Yeah, well, that's the problem with being human, everything looks like foreplay to aliens." The AI clicked. "Noted. Updating your diplomatic file, species prone to involuntary seduction." "Delete that." "Uploaded." Before I could strangle a machine, the doors hissed open and every head turned. Vilara entered the cafeteria, ducking under the archway like an armored goddess who'd just conquered breakfast. Her warriors followed, all 6 of them glaring at me like I'd stolen their queen, which, apparently, I had. She spotted me and marched straight over. The floor vibrated with each step. Every diplomat found urgent excuses to leave the room. Vilara sat across from me, claws tapping the table, eyes burning with curiosity. "Human Jake," she said, "I studied your customs. I wish to understand the power of your smile." "Power? It's just facial expression." "Lies," she said, leaning closer. I felt something. A chemical rush. "You weaponized joy." I nearly spit out my coffee. "Lady, if joy were a weapon, humans would have nuked themselves with laughter centuries ago." She tilted her head, examining my mouth like it was forbidden technology. "Show me again." "What?" The smile. "Do it." Every rational neuron screamed don't. But she looked so earnestly dangerous, like a predator waiting for a punchline. So I half-grinned, hoping it'd diffuse tension. She exhaled sharply, muscles tensing. "Again." Wait, this isn't." She slammed her fist on the table, cracking the alloy. "You mock me with restraint." Morris 9 whispered, "Statistical prediction, you are about to invent intergalactic BDSM." "Not helping." I hissed. The matriarch leaned back, crossing her arms. Explain, human. You show teeth when amused, when threatened, when aroused. How do your people tell the difference? We usually can't, I said. We just hope context saves us. Her eyes widened. That is madness. Exactly, I said, grinning despite myself. It's our evolutionary superpower. She stared for a long time, then smiled. It wasn't submission this time, it was curiosity, awkward but genuine. Perhaps madness is strength, she murmured. That should have been my cue to leave. But no, I was still human, and humans never quit while they're ahead. By afternoon, I was dragged into a press conference. The council demanded an official clarification about the smiling incident. Vilara insisted on joining. Cameras swarmed. Reporters buzzed like gnats. The blub chair of the council announced, to preserve peace, we require a demonstration of human emotion and Taknai reaction. Proceed. I turned to Vilara. You ready? She nodded solemnly. I am prepared for your face. Right. Okay. Watch closely, everyone. Humans smile when we're happy, or friendly, or... My translator hiccuped. The words came out as, humans smile when preparing to mate or kill. The room exploded in screams, laughter, and applause. Vilara grinned, baring fangs. Which are you preparing for now? Neither. Maybe both. I don't know anymore. Morris 9 interjected, perhaps define mate. I shouted, not now, Morris. But Vilara wasn't offended. She looked thoughtful. Perhaps your dual meaning is why your species survived. You confuse your enemies until they fall in love or surrender. That's, honestly not wrong, I admitted. Then, in front of the entire council, she smiled again, broad, deliberate, dangerous. Reporters gasped. The blub chair fainted. I muttered, oh come on, now you're doing it. I yield to confusion, she said proudly. You're yielding to a headache. To you. The council screamed for order while Morris 9 broadcasted, Galactic update. Human male collects second surrender from apex predator within 24 hours. Achievement unlocked. Afterward, I was summoned by command for disciplinary action. They projected a hologram of Admiral Jew, a man who could frown through light years. Tracer, I told you to represent Earth, not turn it into a dating service. It's not my fault her smile means surrender. He sighed. You're either the dumbest ambassador in human history or the luckiest. Why can't it be both? Because now half the galaxy thinks Earth seduces its enemies into treaties. Technically, that's efficient diplomacy. Jew pinched his nose. Congratulations. You're now our cultural liaison for emotional relations. Fix this. Teach them we're not a threat. And for God's sake, keep your mouth closed. Click. End transmission. I turned to Morris 9. You hear that? They promoted me for screwing up. Correction, said the AI. They promoted you because screwing up is now considered a human virtue. I couldn't even argue. The next day, Vilara invited me to her flagship. Said she wanted to train in smile combat. Against every instinct for survival, I agreed. Turns out training involved her mimicking human gestures, grinning, winking, even finger-gunning, while I tried not to hyperventilate. At one point she asked, when a human says let's grab a bite, is that an invitation to battle or to feed? Depends on who's paying. She blinked. I will pay. We battle after. I sighed. You're flirting again, aren't you? If that is what you call this ritual, then yes. Her translator purred, and I realized how badly I was losing control. She was learning sarcasm, humor, teasing, all the dangerous tools of humanity. That night, I scrolled through headlines on my wristpad. Human smile declared weapon of mass seduction. Beastwoman seen laughing, possible symptom of infection. And my favorite. Love is war, humans win by accident. I stared at my reflection in the screen, tired, confused, slightly turned on, and fully aware that I was about to break my vow again. I promised myself not to fall in love. But love, apparently, doesn't need gravity. It just needs one bad translation and a smile. And somewhere deep down, in the cosmic mess of miscommunication and hormones, a thought whispered that scared me more than any alien fleet. Maybe this is what humans do best. We walk into galaxies full of monsters. And make them laugh. By the time I got back to my quarters, I had a galaxy-sized problem wrapped in fur and curiosity. Every new headline made it worse. Ambassador Tracer tames the Beastwoman. Love conquers claws. Smile diplomacy triumphs again. I wasn't sure if I was a hero, a joke, or the punchline of the universe. All I knew was that Vilara had scheduled what she called the Unity Ceremony. Supposedly a friendly cultural exchange. In human terms, an interstellar PR stunt. In Taknai terms, foreplay. Command sent me 50 pages of protocol notes that boiled down to 3 words: don't touch her. Naturally, the first thing she did when I arrived was grab my hand. It's tradition, she said, her claws gentle but firm. We begin the ceremony with contact. Her hand was warm, rough like sandpaper over fire. My brain decided to betray me immediately. Sure, I said, trying to stay professional. Just, no sudden moves. She tilted her head, amused. Humans fear touch. Only when it ends in marriage or medical bills. Morris 9 hovered nearby, logging everything for the record. Reminder, it said, do not reciprocate physical gestures that could be construed as dominance, submission, or mating behavior. That's literally all gestures, I hissed. Then stand still, the AI replied. Like a tree. Vilara studied me. You tremble, Jake Tracer. Is it fair? More like realism. You have survived battles, she asked. Mostly dating ones, I muttered. Then the drums began. Hundreds of Taknai gathered around us, beating massive hide-covered drums that echoed like thunder. The translation overlay labeled the rhythm: honor, desire, confusion. Fitting. I stepped forward to give the speech Earth had approved. I'd practiced it 12 times. The translator blinked, recalibrated, and somehow decided to make me sound like a poet on aphrodisiacs. Honored Taknai, I come bearing the gift of union and open spirit, it said through me. Let us embrace as bodies of shared warmth and purpose. The crowd roared. Vilara's pupils dilated. That is not what I said. I whispered. You invited mating through thermal proximity, Morris 9 confirmed. Would you like me to rephrase? It's a little late, I said as Vilara placed her hand on my chest. You offer warmth, she asked softly. In abundance, I said before my brain caught up. Wait, that's not, I accept, she declared. The drums intensified. 2 Taknai gods began pouring glowing liquid into ceremonial bowls. I prayed it was wine. It wasn't. The translator called it hormonal accelerant of trust. I was doomed. She handed me a bowl. Drink, human. Prove your courage. I'm courageous enough sober, I said. She raised an eyebrow. Then you will not share in our trust. Trust me, you don't want me drunk in diplomacy. You fear losing control, she asked. No, I fear what happens when I don't. She smiled. The crowd gasped. Every time she did that, civilizations teetered. I sighed, took a sip, and felt my tongue ignite. This tastes like regret, I croaked. Regret and battery acid. Then it suits you, she said. The ceremony shifted into a ritual dance. She moved like a storm, graceful, violent, hypnotic. Follow me, she commanded. I can't dance, I said. Then fight me, she countered. Still can't. Then surrender. Already did. The drums reached a fever pitch. My translator struggled to keep up with the overlapping chants. Words like bond, trial, and bedrock flashed across my display. The crowd began chanting both our names. I'd seen political rallies less intense than this. Halfway through, My communicator buzzed with a private message from command: abort ceremony immediately. I turned it off. Sometimes, survival instincts and stupidity look exactly the same. As we circled each other, her eyes locked onto mine. You mock tradition with humor, she said. It is intoxicating. It's a coping mechanism, I replied. Humor keeps us sane. Your species fights fear with laughter. Mostly with denial, but yeah, laughter too. Strange, she said, moving closer. When I smile, my people tremble. When you smile, they hope. Something in her tone hit me. Not lust. Not politics. Understanding. Maybe that's why we keep getting invited to wars, I said. We don't know when to stop smiling. Her claws grazed my collar. Then teach me, she whispered. Teach me how to smile without surrendering. My throat went dry. You sure you want that lesson? It comes with emotional baggage. We will share the load, she said simply. The translator beeped and broadcasted her last sentence as we will share the bed. The crowd lost its collective mind. Morris 9 buzzed. Diplomatic incident probability, 98.7%. You think? I shouted over the cheers. Before I could fix it, Vilara raised her hand for silence. Hear me, Taknai. The human teaches that vulnerability is not weakness. It is terrifying strength. She looked at me and added, and I am learning to be terrified. The crowd erupted again, chanting something that translated roughly to love through chaos. I didn't even know if it was real or just poetic license, but I'll take it. Then came the final part of the ritual, what Morris 9 called the gesture of completion. I asked what it entailed. A symbolic demonstration of mutual trust, it said. By Taknai standards, it involves mild violence. Mild. I repeated. Before I could blink, Vilara swept me into the air, spun me around, and pinned me gently to the ground. Yield, she said. Tradition demands it. You already did that twice. Now it is your turn. I stared up at her and said, Fine, I yield. Happy. Very. The drums stopped. The crowd knelt. I was flat on my back, staring at an alien sky and wondering if Earth's HR department would count this as harassment or heroism. When she offered her hand to help me up, I took it. My body protested, but my heart didn't. Congratulations, she said. You have survived the ceremony. Barely, I replied. Does this mean we're allies now? It means, she said, that if you ever lie to me, I will eat you. Noted, I said. Later, back on the ship, Command demanded a report. I dictated, mission outcome, uncertain. Diplomatic ties established through emotional chaos and partial asphyxiation. Recommend cultural training in boundaries and safe words. Jew called immediately. Tracer, what the hell happened down there? We made peace, I said. And possibly a public engagement. Tell me you're joking. Admiral, at this point even I don't know. When the line disconnected, I looked at the reflection of my still bruised face. There was a faint smile I couldn't suppress. Maybe it was the after effects of the drink. Maybe it was insanity. Or maybe, deep down, I finally understood what humans bring to the galaxy. Not weapons. Not wisdom. Just the ridiculous, unstoppable urge to laugh, love, and somehow make even war look like flirting. I'd promised never to fall in love again. And yet here I was, falling through space, through fear, through protocol, grinning like a fool while the universe laughed with me. By the next solar cycle, the entire galactic network had declared me mate of the beast. Not ambassador, not representative, not even that guy who accidentally started a treaty. Just mate. Command was furious, the tabloids were thrilled, and my inbox was 60% marriage proposals from species I couldn't even pronounce. I told Morris 9, I need a vacation or an exorcism. It replied, statistically, both fail at similar rates. The council summoned me for damage control, meaning another public meeting with Vilara. I walked into the chamber greeted by flashing drones and chanting Taknai warriors. The chant translated to yield, 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 which felt personal. Vilara stood at the center, radiant and terrifying as ever. Human Jake, she said, voice echoing through the hall. We are bound by ritual and chaos. Let us make it official. I blinked. Official how? Our bond has unified our people. They demand a symbolic union. That sounds suspiciously like a wedding. It is diplomacy, she corrected. With flowers. What kind of flowers? Carnivorous. I muttered, of course. Morris 9 buzzed in my ear. Command advises against refusal. Denying her could be interpreted as a declaration of war. So, if I say no, we die. If I say yes, I marry a 7-foot killing machine. Affirmative. Great odds, I said, really feeling the romance. The ceremony was immediate. No time to think, which was probably for the best. The council chamber filled with dignitaries and news feeds. The blub chair officiated, droning in 17 dialects about peace through bonding. I caught my reflection in the polished floor, the universe's biggest idiot wearing a ceremonial sash that said unity through confusion. When it came time for vows, I improvised. I promised to try not to offend your culture, your species, or your personal space. She responded, I promise not to crush you unless provoked. The crowd cheered. Apparently, that counted. Then came the binding smile, the part where we both had to grin at each other to seal the treaty. My jaw ached from stress. I forced a smile. She returned it instantly, showing every fang. Cameras flashed. Sparks, literal ones, flew from her armor. And just like that, the galaxy decided we were soulmates. Afterward, reporters bombarded me. Ambassador Tracer, how does it feel to bridge two worlds? Confusing, I said. Mostly terrifying. Also, I think my marriage contract includes a dual clause. What's next for humanity and the Taknai? Couples therapy, probably. Back on her flagship, Vilara stood by the viewport, watching a nebula swirl. You are quiet, she said. Trying to figure out if I'm still alive, I replied. You humans fear union. We fear commitment, I said. Same thing, really. And yet you bind yourself anyway, she mused. That is courage. No, I said, that's hormones and bad decision-making. She turned, amused. Perhaps that is your strength. You fall, but you always stand again. Her words hit deeper than expected. For all the jokes, for all the insanity, there was something raw and real in her gaze. You know, I said, humans fall in love like they fall downstairs. Loudly, unexpectedly, and with permanent damage. She stepped closer. Then fall, human. There it was, the line between diplomacy and something else, blurred beyond repair. I'd promised myself never to cross it again. But maybe promises are just the lies we tell to survive until someone gives us a reason to break them. I took a breath. If I fall, you're catching me. I will, she said. But I warn you, I bite. Figures. We stood there, ridiculous and sincere, two disasters orbiting each other. Morris 9 broke the silence. Congratulations, Ambassador. Galactic conflict averted. Casualties, 0. Dignity, unrecoverable. Put that in the report, I said. Already did. The following week was chaos wrapped in ceremony. Trade deals, joint security protocols, and a new interspecies tourism campaign titled Smile Across the Stars. Every ad used our faces. I'd become the poster boy for cosmic romance. My mother called from Earth. Jake, are you serious about this woman? Technically, yes. Does she eat people? Not often. Good enough, she said, and hung up. Even command relaxed once they saw the results. Trade boomed. Wars quieted. Diplomacy suddenly had a new secret weapon, human charm. Or, as Vilara called it, weaponized vulnerability. The council issued a statement: human emotion proves more disarming than plasma fire. That went straight onto recruitment posters. But for me, the noise faded when she smiled, again, softer this time, no yielding, no dominance, just a strange, awkward peace. "You look tired, human Jake," she said one evening. "That's because I'm married to a legend." "Correction," she said, "you are married to chaos." "Same thing," I said. "At least chaos kisses back." She laughed then, really laughed, and I swear the sound shook the stars. I realized something in that moment. All the politics, all the cultural misunderstandings, all the drama, they were noise. The real story was simple. Two creatures from opposite worlds learning to meet halfway. One with claws, one with bad habits. I asked her, "Do you ever regret yielding to me?" She smirked. "Yielding was your word. I prefer adapting." "Fair," I said. "You adapted well. You even learned sarcasm." "And you learned to survive affection," she replied. Later that night, Command sent final instructions: maintain alliance. Avoid further romantic complications. I stared at the message and laughed until I cried. Too late. When dawn came over the Taknai homeworld, she found me watching the twin suns rise. "You think too much," she said. "I'm human. Overthinking is cardio." "Then rest," she said, wrapping an arm around me carefully. "You have fought enough. You call this fighting. Every heartbeat is battle." Maybe she was right. Maybe love is just another kind of war, one humanity happens to be good at losing gracefully. I'd lost plenty: control, pride, maybe a few ribs, but I'd gained something rare, a reason to smile without fear. The universe would keep spinning, news feeds would keep twisting our story, but none of it mattered. I'd started as the fool who made an alien yield. I'd end as the man who learned that falling isn't defeat, it's how humans reach what's out of reach. I promised I'd never fall in love again. But when a Beastwoman smiled, I realized falling wasn't weakness. It was our superpower. Because for all our chaos, our jokes, our idiocy, humanity's gift isn't conquest, it's connection. We don't win wars. We win hearts. One bad translation at a time. And somewhere between her laughter and my smile, the galaxy decided maybe that was enough.